Our workout is a core workout. So a few things about core work. A misconception is that crunches or sit-ups are effective. They really only work the rectus abdominis, which is the very, very top muscle layer of the abdominals. So for real strength and stability, we want to work the transverse abdominals. That's where injury prevention actually takes place. So in all practicality, sitting up nice and tall, those kinds of things, working on posture, that's more core work and more practical core work than doing crunches and doing sit-ups and all those other kind of crazy things that we've been doing for years and years and years. So with that said, let's go ahead and come onto our hands and knees and just start with a little stability right there. So if you have knee issues, please roll a blanket or a towel under your knees. You can even place it more down on your shins if that's too uncomfortable for your knees. Get them up off the floor. So my hands are right under my shoulders, my knees are right under my hips, and I'm lifting my belly button up into my body. This is actually quite enough work right here, just to stay here. Notice my neck is long. We don't want to look up this way. That takes our spine out of alignment. So let's just start with a little stabilization. So take one arm out. It doesn't matter which one, just like you're shaking someone's hand. And then if it's possible, add the opposite leg. Now just notice we're going for length rather than height. Here's a little tip for you. Flex that back heel rather than letting it relax. Once we flex, we automatically engage those glutes and get them to kick in. Big breath in, exhale, let's go ahead and switch it around. So the other side. Start with the arm. Once you feel comfortable with that, go ahead and extend that other leg straight back. So I have my left arm and my right leg. They're opposite, not the same. Sometimes people do this. Make it opposite. Lift that belly up into the body. Hold, and go ahead and release. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and take it to a plank and work that just a little bit. A couple of options. If you have wrist issues, go ahead and take it down to the elbows. So we can go onto those knees or up to those toes. The big thing is that my elbow is directly under my shoulder. We don't want to be out here. So tuck those elbows in, keep the shoulders wide. And on your knees, you're just here at an angle. And if you're up on your toes, same thing. Keep the hips down. Here's a common mistake here or here. So the hips are level. And if you feel okay coming up to the top of a push-up position, that's another option. But please pay attention to your wrists. If that's too much, go to those elbows. There's no reason to hurt yourself. So let's hold 2 more breaths. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get some oblique work in. So a side plank. My elbow comes right under my shoulder again, and I can stay right here on my hip. Notice my knee is directly lined up with my hip. So if this is enough, I'm going to lift those ribs up into the body. Press down into my forearm, not the shoulder. It's not this. I'm pushing into the forearm to really lift up here and here. So then I can lift my hips up. Hands on top of the hip just to start. Next option would be to extend that bottom leg. Top leg is in front. Next option to work toward is stacking the feet and lifting the hand. But it's a work up to that position. So we're just going to hold for about 10 seconds. And go ahead and release. Excellent. When it becomes too much for a shoulder, come out of it. Again, don't push. There's no reason to hurt our bodies. Really tune in and listen. So let's get that other side. Elbow lines up under the shoulder. Hip lined up with the shoulder. Top leg extended. Beautiful. I'm lifting my ribs up. pressing down into the forearm, keeping everything nice and long through the neck. And then I'll just push my hips up off the ground. Now my belly is pulled into my spine here, so that I'm creating a little more protection and safety for my low back. Just bracing those abs is what we like to call it. So next option, extended leg, working our way up to whatever option you're okay with. But it's step by step, so if you need to drop down at any time, even dropping back down to the hip, tap down, catch your breath, and then come back up, totally fine. Awesome, let's go ahead and come out of it. So getting the back side. So I'll give you two options on this for some isometrics. So we're stabilizing the hips to start. Shoulders are nice and wide, and my knees stay parallel to one another. Sometimes I like to put a pillow or something between my knees so that the inner thighs are working. Otherwise, people will tend to flop out, and you're actually not recruiting the muscles like you want to. So press your feet evenly into the floor, brace through the shoulders, and lift the hips up off the floor. Again, pulling the belly into the spine, neck is long, and try to look up rather than to the side. I know there's a temptation to watch your screen, but try not to do that. Trust yourself in this. So if you want a little more energy in this, start to push your feet into the floor even more. Really use those glutes and those hamstrings. We'll hold for 2 more breaths. Full breath in and out. And go ahead and lower the hips down and release. Awesome. Tuck those knees into the chest for a moment. Give that low back a break. So I was talking about stabilizing. So what that means is that even when we're moving body parts, whatever we're doing, we want the abdominals to stay pretty steady throughout the motion. That's how we really create strength in the core and that long-lasting strength. It's not necessarily going to give you a six-pack because we're working deeper muscles than that. This is what's going to hold us upright, what's going to relieve low back pain, that kind of thing. So let's just start by finding our hip bones and our ribs, and then we're going to kind of level them out. So the belly might melt toward the ground a little bit. It doesn't necessarily mean that your low back will touch the ground. So keeping all of this stable, let's bring the arms up overhead. Now notice there's a point where the ribs will pop open. They open up and my back lifted up. We don't want that. So go ahead and bring those hands up until you can stabilize. Beautiful. So from here, we're just going to make some circles with the arms. Inhaling when we reach up, exhaling as we circle down. Let's do one more. And then switch directions, and we'll do 5 that way. Inhaling up, exhaling, lowering those hands to the side, keeping this as steady as possible. And here's our last one, lowering down. Awesome. So let's do the opposite and let's move the legs a little bit, but try to stabilize in the hips. So what I'd like you to do is actually kind of place your fingers at your hip bones so that you know, you can feel if the hip moves up or if the abs move. We really want to stabilize right across here. So the idea is to lift one knee up and then lower it back down without moving too much of the lower part of the abdomen. Then we just switch to the other side, lifting up and lower down. Exhaling when we lift, inhaling as we lower down. So when you're ready to progress this, you would actually go to an extended leg. Same thing, but I'll extend my leg and lower down. And then I can just stay on the same side, but really stabilize through the lower abdominals. And just switch sides. And then when you feel good with that one, your progression will be both legs. Exciting stuff. Now, anytime you decide to use both legs in the air, we do want to stabilize that low back or give it a little more support. So just place the hands under the sacrum, so the hips, not the glutes. We'll start with the legs straight up and then lower down. So this is just an option. When you feel those ribs pop up, you've gone too far. So for me right now, it's just to here. That's it. As I get stronger, I'll be able to progress that just a little bit farther until I can lower down without my ribs popping up. So let's do 2 more. Exhaling down, inhaling up, and the last time. Tuck those knees into the chest, and one more time, just give yourself a nice hug. Hands on the backs of the thighs. And then just rock and roll to a seated position. And that's really about all we need to do. We don't need to do hours or even 30 minutes of core work. Just a little bit goes a long way. Thanks, and check in with me this week. Let's see how you're doing.